Do you need a license to start a food business at home? And can I actually start a baking business from home? Well, this and several other questions we're gonna dive into in this episode from Marketing Food Online. We're gonna answer all kinds of home-based food business questions from you, our subscribers. I've got my list right here and we're getting ready to get into it. We're gonna do it right now. All right, guys, so welcome back to Marketing Food Online. It is Damian Roberti, founder and CEO of Marketing Food Online. And in this video, I'm excited to answer your subscriber questions. We just recently did a fantastic video with a handful of questions from you about our spice businesses and different ways to start spice businesses. This one is actually a list of great questions from our subscribers I've got here on my printout. All about starting a home-based food business. Of course, many of this actually falls under, of course, as you may or may not know, the cottage food laws, but a lot of these are great questions in regards to just getting started, and I pull them right directly from you guys. Some of you email me and some of you leave comments. So really quick, if you want to check out down below in the membership section, if you want to check the section that says memberships, and once you get into our memberships program, you start to ask questions. You can post questions up on our community board area, specifically set up for the memberships, and we dive into those questions frequently here in our video series. So, got my laptop open. I'm gonna take a look at some of the emails and then some of the printouts that we've got. So let's get right into it. So the first one comes from Jan Whitley. I hope I said that right, Whitley. Do you need a license to start a food business at home? Well, as a matter of fact, you may or may not. Now, how this works specifically, if you're very new to this as well, cottage food laws, which are laws set up by every state that kind of dictate what you can and cannot sell, as well as how much you can sell of that item, and if you actually need a permit or license. Every state does vary. I would probably say the vast majority of states have some type of permitting or licensing. In a handful of states, I know like in Florida, for instance, there's no permit, no license, even no inspections, no nothing that you would really need to do to get up and running in order for you to get started in Florida. Some states are a little more lenient. Some are much more restrictive. I know there's a couple of states out in the Midwest that not only have a lot of hoops to jump through, but you got to get permits. You have to get a business license within the city or county that you're in. You do have to have a home inspection. So you also, in some cases, even have to have homeowners, and not insurance, but business insurance for your food business. But to keep it in mind, you have to check specifically with your state, Jan. I didn't see on your question what state you might be from. I apologize. But in essence, you may or may not need a license or a permit. But the vast majority of states have some type of permitting, but not necessarily a home inspection for your kitchen. So that's a great question. But also keep in mind one thing. I noticed in your question you said start a food business. So food is kind of a general broad statement. It may or may not be candy or may not be cottage food items. There's a list of what you can and can't make. Of course, every single state has those. But you want to make sure that you have non-potentially hazardous foods that you're producing. Every state has a list of those or items that they would consider time or temperature sensitive. So you want to make sure that the product that you're making, it could be like baked goods or trail mixes or nuts, dried goods, pastas, cereals, and teas and coffees. These types of things you can produce at home for the most part in almost every state. But the other thing is that they're not time or temperature sensitive. So that would be like if you went to a food truck and they made tacos and made food or they made some type of hot item, you'd have to consume that or eat that very quickly. It's a time or temperature sensitive product. So under cottage food laws, that would be the types of foods that you would make. So next up, Stephen Banks asks, can I start a baking business at home? Yes, of course you can. You can definitely start a baking business at home. I know, I'm 99% sure every single state's cottage food laws, again, going back to the home-based regulations and rules and such that each state sets up, baking products in general are allowed. There are some exceptions to that rule. Some baking items that may have like cheeses, let's say like a Danish that has cheese on top, normally is not allowed. Pastries that are filled with like meats, like ground beef or fish or chicken, these are again considered time or temperature sensitive items. So under baking, that would be something that they would not permit you to make there. You can do it in a commercial kitchen. But as far as the question of baking business, just in general, cookies, cakes, cupcakes, those types of things are normally allowed. Yes, 100% you can do that. Again, check with your state specifically though, Stefan, to find out if you, again, would need, back to question one, if you need a license, you need a permit, you need something of a regulatory permitting to allow you to do that, okay? Now, the other thing, really quick side note, Stefan, to check on Homeowners Associations, if you have one in your neighborhood, you should double check with them because sometimes in the bylaws that they have written in the HOAs has the potential to not necessarily block you from doing it, but they may need you to ask permission or just give them a heads up because you don't want to get in trouble with the Homeowners Association if it says specifically in there you can't operate certain businesses from home, or you have to get regulatory approval from the city or county that you live in. So double check with that. So the states create these types of cottage food laws, but it does trickle down to the communities, the cities and counties. For the most part, they don't have the authority to overrule the state's regulations, but they can definitely write some additional policies or additional regulatory things involved with that. But also the Homeowners Association, you want to double check with them, okay? Next one is from Jack Murray. Thank you, Jack, for asking, can you make food at home and sell it online, though? That is actually a great question, and that is one that we get asked, actually commented quite frequently. The thing with the selling online, there are a lot of states in 2021 and 2022, if I'm not mistaken, this year and last year, that have actually updated and brought about the idea of selling products from home online with like a website or if it's an app of some kind. That is allowed, but the trick is that in the rules it says that you can't ship or sell it outside the state. Now, being that a guy that's been in e-commerce for as long as I have been, selling food from home online within your state is very difficult. Unless you're operating a specific group on Facebook, or you have a specific area that you'll deliver to and you have that on your Facebook, maybe Marketplace, you've got something like that on there. But when you have a website, there are people in California who could access it if you live in Georgia. There are people in Georgia if you live in Washington State and you're selling it and such. So the idea is that it's going to be really difficult to regulate that and not ship a product outside of state or over state lines. It's known as interstate commerce or interstate sales. That's normally not allowed, Jack, just so you know. But you can, in most states, they have instituted a lot of them. Florida is one of them. Yes, Florida has also, you can sell a product online through a website, and you actually have to ship it within the state itself. So many of these states have that available, but it's very difficult to kind of gauge that, okay? So next up is Sarah Parker. Sarah Parker, can you sell food without a license from your home, without a license? So that's kind of going back to that first question. If your state doesn't have a permitting or licensing aspect to the cottage food laws, then most definitely, yes, you can sell it without a license. Now, the other thing you want to keep in mind, though, is that the cities and counties that you live in may require, or it's best for you to get a business license. Now, a business license is normally not something associated with the cottage food industry or cottage food selling from home, but getting a business license will help you get business insurance and then create basically an actual business where if you're making a profit, you need to make sure that your accountant is aware of that as well, because you do have to pay taxes on the income if you make a net profit from your sales. So last question, Christopher Blankets. Sorry if I messed that up. Christopher asks, how do I start selling desserts from home? So now, this is a great question, because also when you start selling desserts, you need to be very careful about the types of desserts that you're selling. Get rid of that list there. Okay, the types of desserts that you're selling, because the thing is that many of the desserts can't have cheeses and such on the top, or even sometimes even baked in. If you're doing certain cakes and you have certain frostings, if they're egg white related, or if they've got butter in the buttercream frosting and it's butter in it, so it has to maintain a certain temperature. You got to be careful with the types of desserts that you're allowed to make. Check your state's cottage food law with the list specifically, because they'll let you make a lot of different sweets and baked goods and cookies and such that could be desserts. But at the end of the day, like cream puffs or ice cream and things of that sort, normally the big answer is no. Because those types of ingredients, if they're not kept at a certain temperature or consumed in a certain period of time, that's considered a potentially hazardous ingredient. So those are something that you're not allowed to make. A lot of people ask about custard-filled donuts and such. A lot of states allow you to make donuts, but you can't fill it with creams or pastry creams or custards that have to be refrigerated because of the temperature sensitivity of the product. So thank you, Christopher, for asking that one. So that is 5 questions that we wanted to cover here super quick here on Marketing Food Online about home-based food businesses. So if you've got questions, no matter what it's about, let us know down in the comments. This series that we're kind of getting going here is going to be a handful of videos answering your questions set specifically to a certain topic of food businesses. And check out all of these resources here, these additional videos that we have popped up right there, if you've got more questions. And if you need it also, we do have consulting. You can check out the links down below or go to our website, marketingfoodonline.com. That's marketingfoodonline.com. And they have a handful of different types of consulting set up for you there. I'll see you guys in our next video.